And hello, movie lovers. And today I actually have my good friend Will. He was actually on my show the other day. We were talking about some Cobra Kai. Now I have him again, and this time we're actually going to be talking about She-Hulk. Now we're going to be doing episodes 5 and 6. So, with further ado, let's get on with the show. Hey, Will, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? I need to make sure I've got my name trademarked, I guess, for fear that somebody else may end up coming out and saying they're me. I don't know.
Hey, you never know. Somebody might come out there with a nice little box and tell you, here, you got yourself a PlayStation 5, but instead you wind up having some papers to go to have as a subpoena to go to court.
Right. Exactly.
So, but yeah, if you're wondering what we're talking about, we're actually talking about episode 5, where basically we wind up seeing Jen accept the package that from the courts telling her, hey, look, somebody's trying to trademark her name, and therefore she's now being sued for trademark. And I like how they go into this episode in a sense, but it's not my favorite episode. This is actually my least favorite, but there are certain things within this episode that I liked. But I definitely like how they go into the whole fact, well, you have whoever winds up with it first is actually the person who owns that name. So they go into who has the rights to the name and who doesn't. And then, of course, you wind up seeing this really horrible ad for perfume in this episode. So, what did you think of it?
Um, I'm gonna say first of all, I need to know who the Avengers had on retainer to make sure that their stuff was all this legal stuff was done, because it's weird to me how we never had that issue really come up. Like nobody, like you would think that would have been mentioned in the episode. Like, well, how did Bruce get the Incredible Hulk as a thing, and not have somebody else come out and make a shoe product on it? You know what I mean? Like that seems like the
Right.
joke that should have been made, but we never got it. Uh, but then also we kind of saw later on in this episode how people infringe upon the copyright of the Avengers.
Right.
So that was interesting.
But yeah, I definitely thought that was actually pretty interesting to see the counterfeit clothing of the Avengers and stuff like that, because we never saw that before where basically anything about trademark. So this is actually the first time we actually talk about that in a Marvel series or anything Marvel related. So I thought that was actually kind of interesting that they bring that to the table in a sense. But and then of course we have the perfume model. She winds up telling her, "Hey, look, I'm the one who claimed the rights to She-Hulk." And the next thing you know, Jen is having to go in and get every single guy. She went on that dating site and basically humiliate herself just to clear her name.
Yeah,
And
because she went. Yeah, because she went on those dates as She-Hulk, not as Jennifer Walters.
right.
So
And then, of course, we also have another thing that winds up happening where her friend is actually helping her find a suit that's suitable for her, so that way she doesn't look like that she's about to go to the court system dressed as a quarterback looking for punishment, so to
yeah, as
speak.
Mallory, her. I'm gonna say I don't. Mallory feels more like a friend of me, but Mallory also feels like something set up for something a lot bigger later for other reasons. But Mallory in the comics at least was single, and she definitely was kind of a counter to Jennifer in a
Hmm.
lot of ways. I mean, she kind of always charged the idea that the only reason Jennifer was there was because she had powers. That she really didn't earn the right to be there. So that was Mallory's always kind of yin and yang. That Jennifer being there was Jennifer, to her, always kind of had to prove that she was a good lawyer in addition to being a superhero.
Right. And I feel like with this one, they actually do a really good job of balancing things out to where she's basically her friend, and you actually see that being played out in this episode. So I definitely like that, where she actually has a friend that she can lean on and things like that. But I like also too about how they brought back the other guy that we actually were rooting for that she went on a date with, and he's like, yeah, I really did. I went on a date with She-Hulk, and we had fun. And she was like, then like, well, would you have gone on a date if this was actually Jennifer? And he said, absolutely not.
And she's not my type. Jennifer's
Right.
not my type, which is interesting because there is this really interesting question of, but they're the same person though. That's
Right.
the thing, because you look at Jennifer as She-Hulk in this instance, and her face is just telling you the whole time, like, really, you can't just accept me for me. Like, you have to accept this exaggerated version of me. You can't just accept me.
Right, accept me for who I am. And we touched on that on like the last episode where
Hmm.
we were saying, look, she just wants someone to accept her for who she is underneath the Hulk. And it seemed like that and I was rooting for the guy. I was thinking, okay, she finally found herself a nice guy, and then he winds up being a total ball bag by the end of the episode.
Because he only wanted to be with She-Hulk, not with her. So
Right.
it's interesting. And I mean, yeah, and I mean, of course, yeah, you're right. It was one thing of that she was very willing to go through, because she knew what was going to happen when she did that. She knew that they were going to all come in and they were going to be like, like the one that David Otunga played, which I continue to love the fact that you have a guy who was a professional wrestler who actually is a Harvard graduate lawyer in the show, acting as just a meat boy or whatever. I don't know what you want to call him. It's a big buff
Basically a
dude
jock.
running around, just I'm lifting weights, I'm doing all this powerful stuff, and it's just like she just really seemed like she was just trying too hard. It's like,
Right.
wow, okay.
Right. And, then of course she winds up winning the case. And then after that winds up happening, now we actually have the wedding that we go to in this episode. But also, too, we also get a glimpse of what the Daredevil costume is actually going to look like on the show. Yeah, we saw pictures, but we actually get to see who's making the suits now. Because
Yep.
before, remember in the Marvel Netflix series and stuff like that, it was somebody else that was making the suits, and he winded up dying.
Hmm.
And now we have someone that's totally different making the suits.
Very posh surrounding, very limiting. As a matter of fact, I thought it was funny when they were out there, because one of Pug's things was he was looking for the Iron Man 3s, which I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I need a pair of those. Like Nike, somebody get on that. Like, can we get some Avenger inspired shoes and just release like one every 3 months until you have the whole entire line? Like, people would buy it. There'd be people out there who want it. I think. I mean,
I
goodness,
think Nike should do that.
how many
I mean,
people
come on,
bought
you
those
got
Back to the
Jordans.
Future shoes?
Right. Exactly. But I feel like this, though, too. I mean, come on, you have Air Jordans. Have some Starks.
Be like,
have...
I need a pair of Thor Odinsons, please.
That sounds like royalty right there, right? Walking into like Foot Locker. Yes, I want some Thor Odisons, please.
I need a pair. I need the best purple pair of your Clint Bartons, and for my little girl, I would like a pair of the oh gosh, I can't think of her name. I keep wanting to say the actress's name and not the actual character she played
Is it
um, in
Miss Marvel?
Hawkeye.
Oh,
No, in Hawkeye.
okay. Yeah, I
Kate
can't
Bishop.
remember.
And I
Shay.
would I'd like an order of a Kate Bishop arrow line, the sleek line Kate Bishop's for my daughter.
Better
You
yet,
know,
just call it the Bishops.
I need I need the limited edition Bishop run, and I need those tracksuit Mafia shoes, and like 5 pairs of those.
It'd be funny if they actually did have a clothing line that said Tracksuit Mafia, and then you have like the gold chain that goes with it,
Yep,
and then
yep.
have like the little Adidas hats. That'd be awesome to actually see that like at a JC Penney or something.
I would like the Netflix Kingpin ones, and then I would need the Hawkeye Kingpin twos with the red and white and the black color scheme. Just drip me out in some Kingpin style too, please.
I'd definitely buy some, but they're going to be probably over $1,000 because it's
Uh,
Kingpin. So yeah,
the Kingpin shoes, and then of course you can get really interesting. You can get the Kamala Khan's, the Air
Kamala
Khan,
Khan's.
get that Kamala Khan's. You know, be like all the shows. Just walk in the store, be like, February is coming up soon. I'm gonna need some Sam Wilsons, but I'm gonna also need some Falcons and some Captain America Sam Wilson brand.
I want to say that I love America, but I want to say that I love America all the way. So I need a little bit of everything.
I need some straight up. I need some Rogers the musical shoes.
And some Buckies. I need some Buckies.
And some Bucky Barneses with the silver trim to represent the Winter Soldier. I need all that. I need some Scarlet Witches, but I don't want the WandaVision blend, not the Multiverse of Madness version.
Exactly. I could just see them going, okay, this guy's way too picky. But But though, it would actually be cool if they would actually do something like that with the store, since now we're talking about branding and things like that, and to market that. That would be smart marketing strategy. But seeing the Daredevil yellow suit, I definitely liked seeing it for the first time.
Yeah,
And even though the color and everything, the color scheme through the pictures looked kind of off to me because I'm always used to the red and black because that's what I'm
yeah.
accustomed to. I'm just a truist. But with the yellow suit and everything, I'm kind of digging it now that I see it in its full
hmm
context.
Yeah, and I mean the thing about it is this is the MCU version official of Daredevil, and so some of the people that complain it's like, I don't understand. He had the dark red suit in the deal or whatever. He had to. It's like, okay, guys, you got to remember he started out in this suit in the comics. He started out in the yellow and brown suit in the comics. I mean, but as an official suit. So this is the MCU official version. Because that's one thing about it. They did this. Yes, Charlie Cox is playing Daredevil, but please understand, he's not going to be playing the Daredevil that was in Netflix show
Right, and
because
they already confirmed that
they've confirmed that Daredevil Born Again will not be Daredevil season 4. It's going to be its own thing.
entity. Right.
Yeah. So, don't look at it as, oh, no, say whether or not continue. I'm like, I don't think Disney proper is going to give us everything that Netflix gave us.
Exactly. And I'm okay with the fact that this is actually a different version than what we got from the Netflix thing, to be honest with you. Even though I feel like those characters belong in like the Marvel Knights stuff and have your rated R characters at Marvel Knights and have like your own separate studio called Marvel Knights Studios
Yeah.
and set up your rated R characters there under one umbrella versus it being in the MCU, because then it makes sense for them to separate the two. But I'm just happy that we actually have Charlie Cox back, and we just actually confirmed that we also have his friend in there now as well. So I'm happy to see the both of them back again.
Talking about Foggy.
Yep, Foggy is back.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now let's talk about the wedding and how inconvenienced it is, because I know people are like, "How dare they do this to us?" I'm like, dude, you wouldn't have known that Daredevil was going to show up unless they teased it in the episode or if it was announced on the internet.
Yeah.
So just take it for what it is.
Yeah.
So what? They didn't give us the Daredevil like Netflix would actually done. They would have actually teased it and then gave it to us.
And the thing about it is that Jen tells you at the beginning of the episode, "Is it inconvenient that you got this episode as a wedding episode? Because weddings are like that. They're inconvenient. They interrupt the natural flow of life." Da 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 da. And it's just like, I get what you're doing. It also feels very sitcom-y
Mm-hmm.
to
This is what
set
they're going
up
for.
something and then not pay it off in that next episode.
Right.
Because that does occur in a lot of old school sitcom type stuff. And again, you have to remember the model for this show was Ally McBeal.
Right.
So go back and watch that to understand how sometimes they did that. They would set up stuff that they wouldn't pay off for 3 or 4 episodes later.
Exactly.
I do wish that She-Hulk had more episodes, because I mean we're talking about episode 6. We've only got 3 episodes left. So at some point that pressure is there to pay off stuff.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. I'm going to talk about that ending in a few minutes or whatever about the needle, because it's very reminiscent to the Incredible Hulk movie that we got with Edward Norton when they were trying to take down Blonsky as the Abomination. So we're going to touch on that a little bit towards the end about what I think about that and if it's worth the payoff or not after seeing it. But yeah. I do like the wedding stuff. The wedding stuff for me worked in this episode. The subplot with the Eternal guy and things like that. I was like, not Eternal, but you know what I'm saying, Mr. Immortal. I just didn't feel like that was for me for that part of the episode. I would have been fine if they just focused in on the fact that Jen is at this wedding the whole entire time and doing it that way.
There's a reason. There's 2 reasons why they did that B plot. One, they wanted to give Mallory this opportunity to do her own thing outside of Jennifer. And again, what does that set up? I don't know, but it sets up something, because they made a point of her doing it. That could have been Pug, but it wasn't Pug. Pug was not even in the episode, this episode. By the way, shout out to Pug, who had all the different Avenger shoes and the little animated gifs there at the end of episode 5. That's why we talked about that for so long. But anyway, uh, but the other reason was to set up the fact that old girl is married and has a kid, but they don't. But she asks her who she's married to, and she won't tell her. Why is that so important that she didn't tell her who she was married to? Especially when you've got somebody you're right in the office with, you just won this case together, and somebody says, "Whoa, you're married? Yeah, who are you married to?" And then she just bypasses it by saying, "Yeah, it's a very happy life," type thing. Like she just doesn't get into it. So I'm really wondering if, because I set up that the other attorney in the Emil Blonsky case was I can't think of his first name, but it was something Wilson, which in
Right.
the comics was a brother to Sam Wilson. And so I really kind of wonder if maybe she's married to that attorney who countered them, and if there isn't some sort of weird conflict of interest there. You know what I mean? Like why she doesn't like She-Hulk so much is because she really doesn't like She-Hulk.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, there's just questions there, but and also I'm gonna say this. I understand in this show a lot of the guys are not the greatest guys in the world. For those who don't know, Mr. Immortal is one of the Great Lakes Avengers.
Really?
Uh,
Okay,
yeah,
I didn't know
he's
that.
a comic book character. He's Great Lakes Avengers. In the comics, he was married to a character named Dinosaur, who, like, her name is like Dynasoar, because she's literally a female dinosaur looking person. Looks like a pterodactyl. She's a pink woman. She pretty much can live for forever too, which is the reason why he fell in love with her, because he's like, I don't have to worry about growing old and dying, or growing old and having my spouse die, because my spouse lives with as long as I do. And so he was married to one person pretty much the whole entire comic book. He's a pretty decent guy. I don't like the fact that the way they created this case was that he was a jerk who basically was like, I don't want to deal with conflict. So I'm gonna pretend I died and then get up and walk away from it and create a whole new identity just so I could not have to do. They could have had a character who was. I mean, they could have tipped their hat toward Blade if they wanted to. They could have had a guy who was like a vampire or something who could somehow walk around in the daytime and did that. They could have created anybody to do that. Why are you going to take a character that? I mean, granted, yeah, the Great Lakes Avengers are not. They're not even
Well,
B
no.
list. They're not even B tier. They're like C or Z tier. But characters,
That goes to show you how much I know about him because I didn't know anything about him or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, why should I care about this
yeah,
when they, like you said, they could use other characters? Why do they have to go to the bottom of the totem pole for that? I do appreciate the fact that they're trying to introduce us to something new
yeah.
and bringing those Z layer characters to us, but at the same time, they could actually do something different.
Right, because my thing is, don't mess up a character that is a comic book character that you may eventually one day use again. Like he may come
Right.
back, and all the people are gonna remember him as is that one dude that killed himself a whole bunch and had a whole lot of spouses, that he had to deal with and got sued over. But, yeah, that's my major thing. But then the other thing too is I didn't like the wedding stuff as much because I'm like, okay, first of all, Jen, why haven't you left?
Thank you, because okay, we're gonna talk about that in 1 minute, but going off the other thing too, whenever the guy winds up offing himself and then he winds up showing how he winds up becoming immortal. My fiance actually brought this up to me. The character from Three's and Company, the one who plays the landlord.
Mr. Furley.
Yeah, she said,
Yeah,
doesn't he remind you of him about how sneaky and conniving he is?
yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, but I was just wondering that too myself about the whole wedding thing. Why didn't Jen just leave? Because here's the thing. I can understand, like, this is your friend's wedding. She doesn't want to be over, you know what I'm saying? She doesn't want Jen to overpower her because she's She-Hulk, which is understandable because it's her day. So that part I didn't have an issue with whenever you look at it from that angle. But the thing that I did have a problem with, oh, can you iron these shirts? These are the groomsmen's shirts. Oh, guess what? can you go ahead and do this? She was making her into like a Cinderella
Well,
of the wedding, a laughing joke. Then she goes, "Oh, by the way, we're gonna let you walk down the aisle with Jonathan, and you're gonna just love him." And all
oh,
the girls are like, "Oh
Jonathan's
my."
so sweet, and he's this, Jonathan's perfect. I'm just like, why isn't Jonathan there? Like that. As soon as they said you're going to go down with Jonathan, it's like all the other groomsmen were there, but Jonathan. So like, okay, there's some joke we're getting.
I was thinking, okay, maybe this guy's probably out of town and he's coming in for the wedding. That's what I was thinking. I was not thinking it was going to be a stupid dog. And if anything, that guy that was there that was showing some kindness to Jen should have been the one that walked her down the aisle. It was like, look, I'm going to walk down the aisle with him because he actually understands me and who I am. And I like how he jokes around with her. And the chemistry is just there, especially when they're sharing French fries together at the end of it. And of course, he goes, "Yeah, I'm just trying to hit on this one beautiful girl who happens to have walnuts in her hand." So I definitely like that, but I just felt bad for Jen this whole entire episode. And then, of course, you wind up seeing her arch nemesis come in.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I first of all, yeah, the minute that you get to the wedding as She-Hulk and your friend, in quotes, your friend pulls you aside to tell you that she doesn't need the attention off of her, so she needs you to become Jen again. Okay, first of all, think about it. They wouldn't have asked. Yeah, Jonathan. I'm gonna get there. Get to Jonathan. I got something that they could have actually used the character from the comics in that role, and it would have worked. But anyway, for a couple of reasons. But first of all, it's like you know that I'm She-Hulk, right? Like you knew before you invited me that I was this person. Now, you didn't you could have said, "Hey, I want my friend from school back. I don't want your alter ego. I want my girl." So to me, it's like that right there was a tip off. They weren't really that close friends.
no,
Uh, when you get to the point where she's talking to her later and she's like, "Oh, well, I'm at a successful law firm. I'm doing the superhero division. I'm doing this." She's like, "Well, no, I don't care about that. Tell me, are you dating anybody?" It's like, and of course, Jen sets up at the beginning that she lost touch with her. And so, but the thing about it was, is I think Jennifer in her mind remembered her a lot differently than what she really was, because even to the point where she's like, "Well, I got these staff people that are leaving because of the way I'm treating them. So since they're leaving, can I have you do this?" I'm like, "No, heifer, I'm your guest. I'm sorry.
hmm
You can't control your mouth long enough to keep your people that you hired. Maybe you
right,
need to do something like that." I feel like that was the first one where Jennifer should have been like, "You know what? I'm out. I ain't got to be here. Bye. I got other things to go do. I can go where all of me is appreciated," because this is the reverse of what she's been dealing with. People didn't want, and I mean, come on, man. The title of the episode was just Jen. It wasn't even She-Hulk. It was just Jen, attorney at law. So
exactly.
it's like,
And
yeah,
I feel like this: if you're friends with this person, you're inviting her, give the girl a call. Hey, look, Jen. I want you to be one of my bridesmaids for my wedding, but there's only one condition. Can you please don't Hulk out or anything like that, because this is my special day, and if you can, please let this be my special day,
yeah.
and leave
Let
it
me
at
know that
that.
beforehand, because she even had a dress that was customly made by the dude so that it would fit her in both forms. Like she spent money on a dress to go to this, understanding she was going as She-Hulk, until she got there and was told otherwise. I mean, yeah, yeah, it doesn't matter because she had the outfit. But what if? But what if the outfit wasn't calibrated to Jennifer? Then what? Then she'd be walking around in a frumpy dress the whole time, way too big for her, because she wasn't made aware of that fact. And then you go through all this, and then she, tries to go to the bar, of course, because she's trying to get her mind off of things and get into it. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. That dude, as nice as he was, as cool as he was to her, And I keep thinking, this is just me. I could be 100% wrong, and I'm willing to put myself out there like that. I feel like that dude's on the wrecking crew. And I feel like that dude was there spying on her. And
I do
that's how
too.
that works. And so
But
that's what I feel like is going on with that because, and then they introduced the Intelligentsia website that's kind of like a TMZ site, and the girls find out that that's going on, and then they go and pull it up, and of course Mallory tells old girl like, "Nah, don't tell her about it. She's got enough on her plate to deal with. Don't tell her anything about that stuff." You know, and then when she tells that, and then she goes through that, it's like she immediately calls Jen and tells her, because of course she's a good friend. She calls her and tells her, "Hey, there's this site called the Intelligentsia," which I love that nod because that's a nod to the leader in the comics because he formed a group in the Marvel Comics called the Intelligentsia, which is a group of mostly bad guys and a somewhat whacked out version of Doc Samson that were trying to figure out how to power the gamma radiation powers of the Hulk.
mhm.
So, you know, what could we get there? I mean, could we be getting another nod to the leader in this whole idea of the blood and how we possibly get more Hulks eventually in the MCU? Uh, that's a possibility. But then also with this dude that may be in the wrecking crew, because I kept looking at pictures from their episode where they showed up. One of the dudes looks like that guy. So either he's got a brother and he's cool, or he's actually going in kind of undercover trying to figure out ways to deal with it because of the way they did at the end. Um, but Jen goes off, does her dancing thing, which I love the fact that, she's just kind of trying to have fun in the midst of this crazy moment where she doesn't want to be there. She's having to pay for her drinks.
Right, and that's actually doubled the drinks though too. And you know, going off of the thing, after the second time of watching this thing, I wasn't thinking it at first that maybe this guy was spying on her. I was thinking on the lines of the fact that, at first that this guy might be genuine. And then, of course, you wind up seeing the part with the needle and then just seeing that little spy aspect to it. I said, yeah, this guy's probably shady, which is sad because no one on this show seems to be decent. No decent guy on this show.
Except for Bruce. Now,
Yep.
my idea on Jonathan, because I did say I was going to talk about that. There was a character in the comics for a long time that Jennifer dated named John Wingfoot. John Wingfoot was a Native American man that she dated for a long period of time who loved her as both Jen and She-Hulk. And I thought when they said Jonathan, I was like, if they bring in Jonathan Wingfoot, I'm going to scream. I'm going to lose my mind right now because I'm going to be like, yes, they actually took the time to read the comics and bring in a character that's super obscure, kind of obscure for that. Because again, they dated for a long time in the John Byrne run. And then, of course, she kind of went and dated a lot of people afterwards. But as he said, so, but that's the thing. I was thinking maybe Jonathan was actually Jonathan Wingfoot, and they were going to bring in this really chiseled Native American dude, and like all of a sudden it's like, okay, hey, we got some more inclusivity, but we've got something that's actually accurate for the character in here. And so he comes walking in, and like this Lou Diamond Phillips looking dude. I mean, I'm younger Lou Diamond Phillips, but this young Lou Diamond Phillips looking jack dude just walks in with a ponytail. And it's like, hi, you must be Jen. She's just like, oh, yeah, I am. So they start talking, and he's like, and don't worry, it doesn't matter which one of you walk down the aisle with. You're both pretty beautiful as far as I'm concerned. Just said something kind of under the cover, like under his breath. Like it doesn't matter which one of you walk with. We're
Right.
glad to
Just to
meet you.
start up the cover. Right. Just
Yeah,
to start up the conversation.
she's like, well, and that thing. But then, of course, the Titania fight. And the only reason why that Titania fight bothered me, first of all, it was too short. I need to know where the lawyer got fight training. But then they revealed that apparently if she's drunk as Jennifer Walters, she has a hard time transforming into She-Hulk. it
which
takes a
makes
while for her
sense.
to burn off the alcohol in order to her to transform. Because of course Bruce tells her at the beginning, hey, as a Hulk, you burn off alcohol at a quicker level, so you get the buzz, but you don't get drunk. But the
Right,
problem was she was human and drinking at the same volume as She-Hulk would drink at.
right. And she hasn't, to be honest with you, she's embraced the name, but she doesn't know how to think like Jen and not like She-Hulk because she's still trying to adapt into that. But the Titanium fight to me was lazy writing.
Because like, oh, I'm gonna attack you. I'm gonna do it because I told you this wasn't over with yet. I'm like, but Jen, you already pointed out that this wasn't there. You already pointed out that again, that was cue number 2 to leave. She could have been gone. It's just like, look, so you wanted your friend from college to come to your wedding and you won't even talk to me. You won't even listen to what I have to say, but you invited Titania that you should have known if we're friends. You should have known she was just in court trying to take my name. Why would you
Exactly.
invite her? And then she was all up in her grill. She was all like, "Oh yeah, Titania, I'm glad you made it." Da, 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 da. Like, you do realize that I punched her as She-Hulk in the face, right? Like, she's not normal either, but she can't turn it on and off. She can't turn on or off the
No,
Titanianness, I guess. And that's the thing. I'm just like, you accepted her as she is, but you can't accept your friend as I am. You know,
exactly. And I feel like with that scene too, the fight was too short, like you said, but also too, she trips and falls and breaks her veneers when she could have actually just knocked out her veneers and everything too. That's why I said I feel like the writing was just cheap for that
She
one.
Hulk had just belted her in the face, and the floor takes out her veneers, which
Hmm.
almost says that the floor is more powerful than She Hulk.
That no,
I don't understand that.
because they both have the same like. Here's the thing: they have the both basically have the same strength. So why wouldn't her teeth be knocked out by Jen versus it being on the floor?
Right. And so
And
yeah, I just didn't understand that. But then, of course, the party foul of the episode to me, I honestly felt like, have you seen the movie Mean Girls, right?
yeah,
Where Lindsay Lohan's character is trying to infiltrate this group of really popular girls. I almost want to see the episode where they basically take Jen through a Mean Girls thing in college. I'm sorry, these women are bad. These women are bad. It's just like, oh
hmm
well, Nintendo Switches, video games are on ESPN. It's a sport now, so the guys got their shirts wrinkled while they're have them iron their own shirts. They don't need me to iron them.
no,
I'm seeing y'all iron them as 80 y'all over here. If each one of us take a shirt, we could have been done. Nah,
right,
don't hand up to. I ain't Cinderella. This ain't the ball. This ain't even my day. It's her day. So you know what? Go make her iron the shirts. How about that? That's the way Jennifer should have been. Jennifer should have just been like, just
hmm
Jen. And then the title should have been, yep, I'm done. Da, da, da.
She-Hulk, I'm done.
I'm
That should have been
done.
the
That's
name.
it. She
Yeah, I
dresses.
mean,
Yeah.
these girls are not even your friends. They're not even frenemies. They're nothing. And also, too, I think that I just feel like really bad for Jen at this time because of the fact that they're using her, and that's all it is. And this person does not mean anything to her or anything
And
like that.
and she doesn't mean anything to her either. That's the thing. Like the Jennifer doesn't herself doesn't mean anything to this woman that she's invited her. Other than she's checking off a box of inviting, I guess, the unpopular girl out of the group.
Right.
It
But
kind of reminds me of that old I kind of think is it Kicking It Old School where the guy comes in and he's like, look, if you look at this group of women, you'll notice that there's 110 out of the rest of them, but then they surround themselves, quote, surround themselves with the ugly women so that way they look better by comparison. Because you notice
right.
none of those women were as tall as the bride, they were all
That's
shorter.
true. That's true.
So it's like, I really feel like she probably did that as the whole group. That whole group of people don't mean anything to her other than she just needed bridesmaids.
Right, and also too, here's the thing I found out too. The reason why women wear tall shoes and stuff like that isn't because they want to be taller. It's because they want to be the tallest person in the room to be able to be the most threatening one in the room
Yeah. So I feel like
as well.
I feel like we would benefit from having your fiance on this show, so we can get her perspective on this as a lady. Just be like, how do you feel about this? Have you ever experienced this? I'm
Get
curious.
in touch with your inner woman.
We talk with a lady. Um, but
But
I mean, that's the thing. It just felt like this was another moment where they just had a whole bunch of horrible people together trying to do a thing, and then after the fight's over, and by the way, Jen's brother, man, Jen's brother. Like I would have thought they would have gotten like DJ Khaled or somebody like that because she talked about sleeping with both uh, uh, the actors from Twilight. She talked Team Edward, Team Jacob. I'm like, okay, so you've got all these celebrity hookups you supposedly have. You couldn't get DJ Khaled to come be at your wedding?
he'll be
You got
interrupting the wedding the whole time.
be like another one, another one,
Another one.
another one.
We the best.
DJ Khaled,
Or
like
we the
She-Hulk.
best.
We the
She's the
best.
best.
She-Hulk. And then when the fight's over, she'd be like, "It's She-Hulk, yo." Something like that. Like instead, it's like no. Even her own brother doesn't even signify that it's her. Like her own
No.
brother is just sitting there, kind of like, okay. And then the old girl comes in. Of course, she's like, and she's super tanked, and she's just like, "Oh my gosh, She-Hulk is at my wedding." I'm like, can we get Madison? Where's Madison at? Like, can we get Madison and Wongers to show up? Anything to save this episode?
Right.
'Cause I just felt like it was just,
It
it
just
makes
felt like it went on too long.
it went on too long, and the meanness was enough. Like I'm like, can we get some legit people that care about Jen other than her parents and other than a couple of people that she worked with? Like
Well, another
everybody
thing
just
too
kind of treats
is
her as disposable.
it doesn't feel like it's relatable. It doesn't feel like anybody was really real. Because at a wedding, yeah, you have a couple of ball bags, you have a couple of douchebags or whatever at the wedding, but then you try to find some people that you can hang out with that will actually accept you. But this one, it seemed like she didn't have anywhere to go.
There should
It
have been
doesn't
somebody
feel,
that was there that was just like, "Girl, I get it. Come on over here. Let's have a seat. Let's sit down and talk. Because you shouldn't be treated
besides
like
the
that."
guy besides the guy that's sharing walnuts and sharing fries at the end of the episode that's supposedly spying on her. But
Yeah,
let's get into the whole needle aspect of it now. But here's the thing. I don't feel like we earned anything when you look at this show. We're like I said, we're like you said though, Will. We're 6 episodes in. I don't feel like there's any threat going on over here. They point out her getting jumped in one episode. Now they're pointing out that someone's spying on her, and then they show the needle from the Incredible Hulk, from the Edward Norton Hulk thing, and I don't really feel like there's a threat. I don't feel anything with this, and I really wanted to feel like there's a big threat coming, but it's like, you know.
yeah. I'm still feeling like old boy that was on the date with her is part of this. Mister. Is there anything that breaks your skin? Any vibranium, maybe? Like I understand we're having a geek moment, but this is awfully layered for a geek moment. Like you're specifically concentrating on her invulnerability.
Well, what about the guy at the wedding though? Do you feel like that he's also connected in with it?
Like I said, I feel like he's part
Right,
of the wrecking crew.
right. And like I said the first time I didn't see it, but now whenever I saw it the second time going through it and seeing how they have the camera and the lenses on Jen and him specifically,
Yeah,
yeah, it's definitely there. He's
yeah,
definitely up to no good. To me, he is, and I just don't trust him.
and, and-
And
yeah. And another thing I just don't understand is okay, so you set up this premise in the show that each show is going to end with an after credit scene. And the first 4 episodes, we got an after credit scene of some kind. And then the last two, 5 and 6, we've not gotten one. We got the stinger of Daredevil's helmet, and we got the stinger of the needle, and that's all we got. And so I'm kind of going like, so we just not gonna have any more end credit scenes, you
I think
know?
we will, but The end credit scenes that we got was no build up, no lead up to anything that we've been getting.
It was just funny stuff that happened during the episode. Like it was her helping her dad, or it was her and Nikki talking later, or different things like that. Which I understand that,
And
but again, it's
twerking.
just like and the Megan Thee Stallion twerk thing. Don't forget when Twitter
Can't leave
exploded.
that out. That's important for plot points. But
Megan Thee Stallion came on the show and ruined She-Hulk, and it's like, we already knew she was cast to be in the show before we got it. So
exactly. And then we also have the whole cancel culture thing with She-Hulk with that website. And then, of course, her friends warning her about some people that are after her.
yep, they're like
But
kill
still,
She-Hulk, die type stuff. I'm like, it's pretty violent, you know. And I thought it was interesting too that they used a TMZ kind of model with that, but they put this stuff out there, and it was just like, and it's just like no big deal. And but it was. I'm sitting there going like, man, if they were threatening my friend, I would want to know. So I'm glad that Nikki did tell her. I'm glad that Nikki did
me
take the
too.
time to be like, let me call her and tell her what's going on. And then that's when you see the big reveal that they've because they reference back to the scene where the wrecking crew tried to get her, and and it failed because she had already transformed into She-Hulk before they tried to stab her. As a matter of fact, I think the dude who tried to stab her might have been that dude.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Because I
But at
think
the same
that was
time,
they're like, did you get her? Did you get it? And he was like, no. And she's like, the boss is not. The other guy's like, the boss is not gonna be happy about this. You know?
well, also, I want to mention this. I know that I touched on this already with the beam from the Incredible Hulk, but I wouldn't put it past it if it's actually the doctor from the Incredible Hulk movie.
Yeah. Who becomes the leader?
Yep,
Because remember at the end of that where he's got the gamma radiation leaking onto his head, and he's just sitting there start smiling because he's already feeling something going on. We just don't see the
right.
final transformation. But I mean, he's been confirmed to be possibly. All he said in an interview is it's a possibility. He didn't say like, yes, I'm in it, or no, I'm
Of
not.
course not.
But he just said, it's a possibility. Because like we already got Emil Blonsky, and of course we've got an episode, at least through the trailers, we've got an episode at some point where She-Hulk and Titania end up going to the little house that Abomination has set up. The little retreat place or whatever. And so there's
Right.
something that's going to cause her to have to go to this retreat place. But I'm like, I this wasn't my favorite episode, primarily because I look for some sort of light in a lot of things I watch. Something that's
Same.
just like, okay, can I get the point to this? That like everybody's got to be being trash people. And it's like, can I get one good person that's legitimately good? Because it's like I felt like with the Josh guy, it's like, okay, he started off looking really good, but we've already seen them take somebody that looks really good, and then whenever this whole thing pops off, it's like you realize that he's not that great because he can't accept her for her. I
Exactly.
don't know. And then, like I said, the fact
I
that I feel like this guy may be a spy.
and you see, I feel the same way that you do. I mean, come on, not every guy has to be a douchebag. I get what they're trying to do, but it seems like they're hammering it over our heads with it every single episode. And
Yeah,
then, the first three episodes are my favorite episodes. The first three. Right now, this one, I only liked the aspect of the wedding stuff. The other stuff I didn't like. The magic stuff, I only like one aspect of that one. And then, of course, with the last episode, I'm like, I didn't like that one at all. So it's like lukewarm for me.
yeah. I think it would have been funny if when she called Bruce, 'cause we know that she called Bruce to try to reach out to Bruce, and Zed said she's been trying to reach him for weeks, and of course he's out in space. We don't know what's going on with him at this time. But I feel like part of the reason we got him off world is so that her blood is the only blood that is Hulk blood right now in the world that they have access to. So, because again, that whole thing in episode 1 where he talks about our blood is very powerful but very sought after. We have to be careful to make sure it doesn't get into the wrong hands. Like that to me sets up the premise for the whole season. Is that idea that
Exactly.
we can't let anybody bad get a hold of our blood. Cause I feel like he may show up at that last episode and just be like, "How's everything going?" He's like, "Well,
Well, I could see him doing it like for like the end credit scene. Him showing up and asking him how his cousin's doing, and then the cousin gives him the whole rundown of everything. So I could see that happening.
I still think the way you do it in true She-Hulk fashion is you have the guy from Ant-Man show up. Like
Yeah, Lewis.
she's sitting at a bar with Lewis, and Lewis she says, "Honey, can you do me a favor and break this down? I'm going to go to the little girl's room." He's like, little girl, you ain't no little girl, but okay, I got him. And so she breaks down the whole entire season in his way of breaking down stuff. It's like, man, crazy, right? Then all of a sudden this girl comes in and she's all like, I'm trying to sue you for your name. And then it's like, oh, you can't have my name because I went on dates with my name. And then like all these people showed up, all this big line of dudes showed up. It's all like, yeah, I dated She-Hulk. It wasn't that great. I don't understand how you can think it's not that great because she's She-Hulk. Look at her. She's incredible. But then you go through this whole phase, you go to a wedding, man. And then Titania is all like, I ain't your fan. I'm going to beat you up. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, I want to change, but I'm drunk. I can't change. And then it's like all of a sudden I figured out how to change. While I was drunk, bam. And they get in a fight in the middle of the wedding. And then old mean girls are like, oh, She-Hulk's at my wedding, and my brother's a DJ, and all this other stuff. That needs to be the stinger at the end of the last episode. Him going over the whole storyline with Hulk, and then Jennifer gets phone back. Said, did you get all that? He's like, yeah, but I got some stuff to tell you too. Bum bum bum.
You know what though? I'm gonna keep this as a clip out because of you doing like the Lewis impression. This is how I'm gonna actually do this clip out because I beat it, man. That made my night. I'm gonna be honest, but dude, I do appreciate you joining me for these after shows. We're doing this one and then the Cobra Kai one. It's always fun having you on here.
I'm glad to be on.
It's a privilege. I'm going to be honest with you to be able to do this with you, and it's so great to actually be able to collaborate with you. And your podcast is fantastic, and I wish you and your co-host a lot of success with it. What are you on episode like 300 now, or?
We record episode 200 Sunday.
Oh, okay. So, okay, I gotcha. I thought you went up to 300 for a minute.
No, it's funny because our technical number of podcasts like 233, but there's a bunch of stuff that I don't have in the show itself. Like I do stuff for a network called the NCS Roadshow, which is a group of comic books Kickstarter campaigns. And so I interview them, but then I also have done some special episodes and things like that. So there's about 30 or there's about 31 or 34 special episodes that aren't counted on the actual docket for the show. So that's why it reads funny. But yeah, the actual episode 200 will be this Sunday we record.
Awesome. Well, Will, thank you again. I do appreciate it. His podcast is called Conversations About ... I recommend you guys check it out, especially episode 200 coming out soon, and also to episode 100 on his 100th episode, which is actually fantastic as well. And so another thing too is I'm going to be interviewing an independent director who directed a short film that's actually going to probably get pushed out be nominated for the Oscars.
Cool.
And his name is Marshall Tyler. I did a short film review of No Pulse or Slow Pulse, and that's actually up on the channel now for you guys to be able to watch it. And also, too, I also posted a link to the actual short film so you can watch it in its entirety and go back and watch the review at the same time. So you guys can go on ahead and do that. But that's going to be at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And that's everything here at Movie Lovers Unite. Also, too, don't forget, Rossie has her show on Thursdays now. So we're going to be doing something on Rossie's shows on Thursdays, and she's going to have some guests coming in. So whenever I get more details on what we're doing, that's when you guys are going to know about that. Then I actually have the House of the Dragon thing that we do on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. But Abby and I might be doing a special reaction to the episode for Sunday night at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time for a review. So that's everything here at Movie Lovers Unite, and I do appreciate you once again, Will, for taking the time out of your night to talk about some She-Hulk. And always until next time, guys, bye-bye.